The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NBA.
The Timberwolves win over the Pistons. We could say that they won the fight.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast.
It is a victory Monday after, I know it's a shorthanded Pistons team, but it was an impressive Timberwolves win. We'll talk about why. Of course, the response to the fight, tied for the most ejections in like 10 years in the NBA. An exciting game on Sunday. And the Wolves actually, I was impressed with the way they played, the way they responded in a physical battle. A number of guys stepping up for what ended up being a shorthanded Timberwolves rotation, at least. And a lot to get into in this one. A lot of impressive individual performances, some overall good stick-to-itiveness, and again, responsiveness from the Wolves. Plenty to talk about in the wake of this one. A big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also, of course, watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. And a reminder about the newsletter, you can subscribe at LockedOnDaily.com. It's one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free right now at LockedOnDaily.com. All right, so the Wolves came into this game after winning on Friday night against the Phoenix Suns, blowing out Phoenix once again, and winning that season series, this short 2-game homestand. The Timberwolves, of course, every win counts the same, but of course it seems like it counts more now because there's only 7 games left on the schedule after this one. So they all matter. And the Wolves, after beating Phoenix on Friday night, came back against Detroit and started flat. They were down early in this game by double figures. They were down 14 at the end of the first quarter. They were down 16 in the first half. And for whatever reason, Malik Beasley decided it would be a good idea to kind of, do what Malik Beasley does, which is play the villain. And Timberwolves fans saw him do this with Minnesota. When they would go back to Denver, we saw him do it when he was with the Utah Jazz against the Wolves. And we know that that's what Malik Beasley is all about. That's fine. Whatever gets you going as a player, fine. Use whatever motivation, do the Aaron Rodgers thing, whatever. Have a chip on your shoulder. I get it. But he was so concerned with shouting about how Jalen Clark couldn't guard him. And then you had Isaiah Stewart taking exception to Dante DiVincenzo, I guess a little shove in the back. Maybe I think Stewart shot the ball and DiVincenzo yelled something at him. It was pretty minor, but Stewart gets a technical after standing over DiVincenzo in an open floor, a loose ball situation. And then Nas got upset about a foul from the Pistons. It was, I think it was on Ronald Holland. It actually wasn't that bad of a foul. I don't know why Nas was so upset. Everybody was just at an 11 at this point already. And Nas gets in his face. And of course, I'm not going to break the whole fight down, but DiVincenzo, steps in between and gives Holland a shove. And then he and Holland and of course, Isaiah Stewart, because why not? And they end up in the crowd, and Marcus Sasser from the Pistons is also ejected. And then both Nas and DiVincenzo are ejected. I would expect, I'm just guessing, I don't know. I don't think Nas will be suspended. DiVincenzo might be because he kind of aggressively put an elbow to the throat of Holland. And I mean, Holland actually took DiVincenzo or tried to take him to the ground in the crowd. So I think he probably gets a multi-game suspension. DiVincenzo, maybe one. I don't know. And then the craziest thing is maybe Pablo Prigioni getting into it with the Pistons staff, coaching staff. That was crazy. But the point, without breaking the whole fight down, the Pistons, I should point out, Pistons, normally I don't do the here's what people are saying on Twitter, but people are getting so upset about the Wolves trolling Malik Beasley at the end of the game with the shimmy thing. They're not doing it because they beat a shorthanded Pistons team. Obviously Cade Cunningham's out. Tobias Harris missed the game too. I get it. They're shorthanded. They're not doing it because they beat a shorthanded Pistons team by 19. They're doing it because Malik Beasley was trying to troll the Timberwolves when in the first half of this game. And what? Because he's one of the best catch and shoot 3-point shooters in the NBA. Fine. I'd love to see Malik Beasley score more than I don't know, 3 buckets a game, not using pin downs. Like, I mean, how else is Malik Beasley scoring? So it's more, it was the troll after the troll from Malik Beasley. And then the fact that the Pistons acted like they wanted the smoke of coming into Target Center and doing that, and then completely falling apart after the Timberwolves kind of literally punched back, right? The Wolves, and this is what's so impressive, like as an actual takeaway from this game, this is the type of fight that Timberwolves have not shown hardly at all this season, and especially on their home floor. I mean, Minnesota defended their home court. They showed fight at home, kind of literally, really. Like, they protected their home court in a way that they have not done all season. They got the crowd into it. They showed, and I'm not saying that they haven't cared, but sometimes they haven't shown that they care. And, well, obviously you don't want to fight ever to spill into the crowd, and you don't ever really want to fight this type of a thing. It wasn't a real fight. There were no real punches thrown. This sort of like scuffle, it's a little reminiscent of the Chris Finch ejection in Phoenix that kind of got the Wolves rolling in the first place back in January when they were really struggling. And I don't know that this is like another catalyst of sorts as the Wolves go back out on the road against Denver on Tuesday. But to do this sort of thing at home in front of the home fans, to get them involved, it really, I mean, it led to a win in this game. And I think it can galvanize the team. It can also show the fans in Minnesota, like, hey, we do have fight in us. We do care. It may have taken it till late March to like really get there, but we're not going to be an easy out in the playoffs. We're going to defend our home floor. We're going to defend each other, or we're going to defend our teammates. And, you know, and as a reminder, like, the Pistons aren't bad. They actually have the exact same record coming into the game as the Timberwolves. I know they were missing Cunningham. I know they were missing Tobias Harris. Fine. The Wolves were favored by, I think, 7.5 or something coming in. But given the fact the Wolves came out flat and they were down 16, and this is how they punched back. And it started with something that looked a lot like last year. The defensive intensity. And I would credit Jaden McDaniels, actually, first and foremost. I know he got into early foul trouble, but he kind of started it. And then DiVincenzo, when he got into it with Isaiah Stewart, was like, all right, if this is what we're doing, I'm doing it. Like, I'm in. I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to fight through every screen. I'm going to get low in a stance. I'm going to grab off the ball. I'm going to get away with whatever I can get away with and compete. The compete level is going to be at its absolute greatest. And then Nickeil Alexander-Walker, same thing. Got down in a stance as he does. Looked like he was guarding Jamal Murray across the timeline, picking him up 3/4 court in the playoffs last year. That's how he was guarding in this game. And it's not realistic. It just isn't for a team to do this for 82 games. They did it for probably 70-plus games last year. That's how they defended. We haven't seen it much this year. We saw it in this game. And this was before the actual like ejections and stuff. This was like before and slightly after the Isaiah Stewart, the initial technical, the dust up. It's not really a dust up. The blow by between Stewart and DiVincenzo, and then the standover, Stewart over DiVincenzo. Around that kind of those festivities in the early second quarter, that's where this defensive grittiness set in for the Wolves. And they carried it forward on the other side of the altercation. I mean, when all this happened in the second quarter, the Wolves were, I believe they were still down double figures. Yeah, they were down 10 when all this happened, 39-29. And it was right before this that the Wolves started defending the way that we were accustomed to seeing last year, and we've seen so seldom this year, especially at Target Center. And that's what we saw. We saw the Wolves get into the jerseys of the Pistons and, again, kind of literally took the fight to them.
March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. You can also check out daily Major League Baseball lines all season long. The LA Angels travel to our nation's heartland to face the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals have not lost yet, but have Miles Mikolas on the mound. Mikolas struggled mightily last year. The Angels feel like an interesting underdog pick, plus 112. So visit FanDuel.com to get in on the college hoop action all tournament long.
The Cavs wrap up the month of March with a nice win over the LA Clippers.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
The Cleveland Cavaliers beat the LA Clippers on Sunday, 127-122. And I thought that this was a really good sign from this team. This is the end of a really difficult stretch in the schedule. If you listen to the show every day, you know where I stand on this, that I think that the schedule has had a really big impact on how the Cavs have played lately. They don't want to use that as an excuse, but I do think that they've admitted that it's at least part of the equation. It's not the whole thing, but it's part of the thing. And I thought on Sunday, they looked like a team that was much more focused than they've been in a lot of the games that they've played this month. I thought that they competed at a higher level than they had in some of the other games that they've played this month. I thought that this was one of the more complete games that the Cavs have played this month. And truthfully, the only reason I thought this game was as close as it was is, one, the Cavs did a poor job of closing out quarters in this game, which has been a bit of a recurring theme for them. And two, give credit where it's due. I thought Norm Powell for the Clippers was absolutely fantastic in this game. And I thought Chris Dunn, who the Cavs were more than content to leave wide open, hit a few shots. And that is why that this game was a 5-point Cavs win instead of a 15 to 20-point Cavs win. But ultimately, I thought we saw a lot of really good things from the Cavs today. I thought Donovan Mitchell was fantastic. I thought Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley both really stepped up after what happened when the Cavs played the Clippers in LA a couple of weeks ago. And this is a really nice win. The Clippers, yes, Kawhi Leonard didn't play. And of course, that factors into this a little bit. But overall, the Clippers have been playing great basketball lately. And the Cavs, I thought, probably toyed with them a little bit too much, where they led by as many as 18 early. They'd let LA back into the game. They led by, I believe it was 14 or 15 or 16, somewhere in that neighborhood in the second half. And they let LA back in the game. They failed to close the door completely as early as they could have in this game. But overall, I think there's a lot to be happy about. And I think a lot of that has to do with what the Cavs looked like offensively in this game, because I think at times during this stretch of below standard basketball, I think is a fair thing to say, where the Cavs have not played up to their standards. I think during this stretch, one of the things that has suffered a little bit has been the ball movement, where the ball maybe hasn't moved side to side as much, or the Cavs haven't generated great shots through the flow of the offense, a lot of what they can do. And, I think this is a common thing that's not a Cavs specific thing, but I do think when teams are at their best, the ball is moving. And when teams are at their worst, the ball can get kind of sticky. And I thought that this was sort of a pretty good example of what happened on Friday night in Detroit against the Pistons, where the Cavs tied their season low in assists with 16. And then on Sunday against the Clippers, a team that I think is probably better than Detroit, the Cavs go out and have 33 assists and just look so much better offensively. They had 33 assists on 47 made baskets. Like, that is absolutely a good place to be. They didn't shoot the basketball from 3-point range as well as you would expect them to. They were 33% there, which is below what their average is. And they've not been a good shooting team in the month of March. But I also think that serves as a reminder in a game like this, where the Cavs look pretty good, but they were not clicking on all cylinders. Like, this was so far away from what the peak version of the Cavs is, but the non-peak version of the Cavs is still more than good enough to beat almost every team in the league. Like, could they beat Boston in a 7-game series playing the way they did on Sunday? No. Could they beat OKC playing the way they did on Sunday? No. But can they beat just about every other team in the NBA playing the way they did on Sunday? Yes, they can, because that's how good the Cavs are. And I don't think that this is anything close to what we're going to see in the postseason, but I think what we are at now, and this was a big talking point after the game, is now it's time to go. And the Cavs, I don't want to say they screwed around during the month of March, because that's not true. Did they have the same level of focus that is needed for the postseason? No. Did they execute as well as they will need to execute when the postseason arrives during this month? No. Was this their worst month of the season? Probably. Is that okay? Yes. But now is when I think we start to see that page get turned a little bit, to where now that just brutal month of March, where they have had, I think this is 18 games in a row, the end of an 18-game stretch where they don't have back-to-back games in a single city, Cleveland or otherwise. And now they're going to be rested. They have a couple of days off, going to talk about coming up in a little bit exactly what that could mean for this team. For the first time in a while, they have a couple of days off. And now I think is when that focus is going to really start to ramp up and lock in. And that's not to say they're going to have it in all 7 of the remaining games, because I don't think that's going to be expected. I think they will, before the end of the regular season, I think they will clinch the top seed in the Eastern Conference. I mean, would it shock me if because now their magic number is down to 4, a combination of 4 wins and Boston losses will give them the number 1 seed. Would it shock me if the Cavs win their next 4 games against the New York Knicks, San Antonio Spurs, Sacramento Kings, and Chicago Bulls and clinch the top seed in the East? No, that would not be a stunning thing to me. And then once that happens, I don't want to say that they're going to take their foot off the gas, but I think that you probably see Donovan Mitchell get another rest game, Darius Garland get another rest game, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen's the only one that's not going to do that because he wants to play in all 82. So I think we'll get to that point. But until then, I think you're going to see a very locked in version of the Cavs. And I think that what we're going to start to see from this team is a little bit more of okay, the playoffs are here. It's time to focus up. It's time to go. It's not that they haven't necessarily felt urgency lately, but I do think that a game like Sunday kind of reinforces what I've been saying on this podcast lately, is that there was no reason to panic because they played a bad stretch of basketball. These things happen. And Donovan Mitchell talked about this after the game. And I do want to talk specifically about the game that he had, because I think it was a very, very impressive, complete performance from him in this one on Sunday. But he talked after the game about a little bit about the circumstances that led to this, that the focus level maybe wasn't where it needed to be. And that, Kenny Atkinson told them before this game, kind of, I don't want to say snapped on them, but he maybe lit into them is the right way to go about this, and got the message across that it's time to focus up, that it's time to start taking this a little bit maybe more seriously than this month has been. And it's time to really start getting ready for a deep postseason run. And I do think one of the keys to making a deep postseason run is taking care of your business. And I think that now we're going to start to see the Cavs take care of their business. And I do think that, maybe this month that we just went through is going to get a little bit overblown, where ultimately the Cavs didn't finish March with some bad record. They didn't play to their full potential, and they had a 4-game losing streak in there. But ultimately, they lost 5 games in a month. Like, that's not a big deal in the big scheme of things. And the other thing that Donovan mentioned, and I think some of this has merit, is that if they would have had, say, if you would have changed the name of this month from March to November, it wouldn't have been a big deal. I think people would have been happy that the Cavs would have gone 11-5 in a month, which they just did, or 12-5, whatever their final record was. But because it's March, because it's close to the playoffs, I do think that there is a sense of, from some of the fan base, a little bit of a freak out. And I understand why, because you want the team to be playing its best basketball when it matters most. And I think that they are going to show moving forward here that they are ready for the postseason, that's what these next few games are going to serve as. They are truly going to serve as the Cavs getting ready for the postseason in a different way than what we have seen before. It's not to say that they're going to play their best basketball every night, because I just don't think that that's necessarily a possible thing. But I think that they're going to look, I think they're going to look like a different team on Wednesday night when they play the New York Knicks. That's the next game they have. I think they're going to look like a different team then. I think they're going to look like a much more focused group, probably even more focused than they did on Sunday against the Clippers. And I do think that this was the most focused they've looked probably since the game they played against Memphis. I think they're going to look like a well-rested team. I think the shooting is going to come back for them. Like, that is the thing that, even as they've looked good in some of these games, as they did on Sunday against the Clippers, as they did in Portland, I guess Utah, Utah's just so bad that it doesn't matter. But the 3-point shooting has not necessarily been the driver of their offensive success. They've been getting it done in other ways. And as I think they're going to get their legs back underneath them a little bit here, I think that is going to be a bigger, more significant part of the equation than what it has been during this stretch. They are a team that entered the month of March shooting around 39% from 3. Exiting in the month of March, they're not anywhere near that. They were a poor shooting team by their standards during this month. that is something that I do expect to change. I think Sunday is, and I've made mention a ton about what day, February 10th, because that was the day that DeAndre Hunter made his team debut for the Cavs, and they looked really good for a stretch after that. And then I don't know if you want to call it taking your foot off the gas or easing up or whatever, but they were not the team that we have seen all season for the last several weeks. And I think there are a variety of reasons as to why. But I think that we are going to look at Sunday, March 30th and say, okay, that's the day where maybe flipping the switch isn't the proper word. But I think that's going to be the day we look at and say, okay, the Cavs are okay. They're fine. What happened in March stays in March. They're going to be all right. They're going to turn the page, and the focus and everything that needs to be there for the postseason is going to be there for the postseason. I think that this is the game we're going to look at it because the Cavs played well enough. They toyed with a really good team. They only won by 5, but I don't think that even begins to tell just how dominant they were in this game against, yes, Kawhi Leonard didn't play, but the rest of that Clippers team is pretty good. And for Norm Powell to have the game that he had and that really be the only reason it was close, I thought the Cavs did a great job on James Harden. I thought overall they did a great job in a lot of areas. And I think that is going to serve as a bit of a preview for what to expect moving forward.
March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. You can also check out daily Major League Baseball lines all season long. The LA Angels travel to our nation's heartland to face the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals have not lost yet, but have Miles Mikolas on the mound. Mikolas struggled mightily last year. The Angels feel like an interesting underdog pick, plus 112. So visit FanDuel.com to get in on the college hoop action all tournament long.
148-109 and a KD injury. We're laughing through the pain.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast.
How are we feeling on this Sunday night, Ben Garcia?
Man, you said it. Smiling through the pain. I don't even what if people look at my face, they'll probably think it's like, what is this guy on? I have been a Suns fan my entire life, and not this casual Suns fan. They were my first love. So I'm trying to think of if I've seen worse. Has there ever been worse?
Well, we were looking at the worst losses in franchise history, which this was actually getting close for, which honestly, pat on the back to the Suns franchise. They haven't had I don't think they've lost by 50 ever.
No, I think they lost by 50 in the Earl Watson years. Remember when Earl Watson got fired?
It wasn't 50.
They
didn't
50?
actually lose the game by more than 50 total points. They were down 50 of a lot and whatever, but
credit to the Suns.
But you mentioned that season, the 17-18 season. I think 4 of the worst 10 losses ever were all in that season. So that was probably worse. But this one, you had expectations, which of course makes things different. But let's get to the big moment of this game, which had nothing to do with the basketball being played because this game got out of hand very, very, very quickly. Instead, it was the departure of Kevin Durant with an ankle turn in the second half of this game. And I think that marked probably the end of the Suns season because
official
losing these two, which were 2 of the only games where you were even close to the teams you're playing in the standings until the last 2 games of the season. You had to get a win. They didn't even do that. Now you're going to go into the absolute worst of it without Kevin Durant, a road trip against a whole bunch of really good teams. And by the time if he even could get back, it might not even be possible to get back to 10. And of course, we know what could come in the offseason. So we had always been saying, knock on everything.
Well,
an injury is the only way this could get even worse, and that happened tonight.
Well, to be fair, Brendan, have you seen the Suns schedule coming up? I mean, it's pretty light. Maybe these guys can figure it out. I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say, man. KD, it was if there was if you were doing a Suns season, like a movie, right? The trailer that I think you would give off, that would be the biggest eye-popping moment, and you would play the sound with the Arena 2 when KD twisted his ankle, no one really did anything, and then he grabbed his ankle.
Yeah.
And the entire stadium groaned in unison. It was whatever, 70 games of just BS that we've had to deal with all year as Suns fans, all coming to an end, potentially, with Kevin Durant grabbing his ankle. That was, like, if we're doing like a PHX like report, that was by far the most just like goosebumps. It was like, oh man, we've all been through it. And you know, KD tried to walk it off. Credit to him. Like, he obviously wanted to stay in the game, but
he couldn't even shoot his free throws.
No, man.
So that tells you
Couldn't even shoot his free throws.
How bad it was. Yeah, injury-wise, the only one I can think of that had that was when Chris' arm got pulled out of its socket in the opening minutes of that 2021 playoff run. That was pretty crazy. But yeah, that was obviously the opposite, where it was a big high and then it went down because it was just so sudden.
Were you at that game?
Yeah.
Wow, man.
So but that's different. But so yeah, I think that's a good comp. I obviously wasn't at that game. Yeah.
But that's a good comp, man. That's a good one.
I think everything sort of feels like it's on the table now, because you combine the fact that they lost these 3 games now in such ugly fashion. We're like, you know, the last time that we were talking heading into the Boston game, it was like, how competitive did that game have to be? Then, of course, it wasn't.
Not even close.
Then the Minnesota game, which we didn't do an episode on, of course, not really competitive, in the second half at least. And now this one was just the worst. So you add that in, and it feels like you're back to square one with coaching changes and everything else. You feel like now the Durant injury might just, you know, top off the end of the season. And, I mean, it took me 30 seconds to gather my thoughts when we were sitting up here watching it, and then I said, Suns-Rockets on March 30th, 2025 might have been the last game that Kevin Durant ever played in purple and orange.
Yeah, I wonder how much truth there is to that statement. You know, what would be not funny at all, because injuries aren't funny and it's not cool, but almost like, I don't know, a little
ironic.
Ironic would be is he started his campaign with the Phoenix Suns in a layup line, twisting an ankle, slipping on a wet spot, on almost the exact same location, same side of the court.
Yeah.
And then he ends potentially his Suns career twisting an ankle, almost on the same side, and we never see him again. That
and the symmetry, he did left and right. He got both ankles, I guess, over the course of time.
When only Arizona sports fans get it, like true Arizona sports, like myself, I'm an all Arizona guy, at least fans of 2 of the 3 teams.
Yeah.
And only that could happen to us. That's what it feels like. And so I sympathize, man. You know, part of the reason why Suns fans still watch games is because Kevin Durant's there, and Kevin friggin' Durant's in a uniform, and you know, we're gonna get an earlier taste of what it feels like without Kevin Durant on this team earlier than we thought. And I didn't think this was gonna happen. Even like a dumb ankle turn. I don't know what to say, man. In our pick, you know who it's going to? The freaking team we played to tonight. That's another reason why you want to try to get in the playoff, is you don't want to give this team a lottery pick. So.
They don't have enough, right? They definitely don't have enough lottery picks on their roster already. I'm so glad they're getting another one. But yeah, that's all very valid. I would like to see him be able to come back this year, if for nothing else than to be able to get an All-NBA opportunity for himself, because I think that has been the only bright spot of this season. Devin Booker has had a very down season, had an awful game on Friday night. All the other nonsense. No, you don't even know who's going to be in the rotation half the night because of how inconsistent this team has been. They might go through another coach. It has been that guy putting up 25, 30, 35, 40 on efficiency, playing his typical brand of basketball that, like you said, has been the only reason to even watch, let alone the only thing worth celebrating about this team. So I would like for him to be able to redeem that chance, but we'll see if it happens. Obviously, he's not going to rush himself back for that. The team would.
You don't think he would? I think.
What does he need that for at this point, right? Like he's done it a dozen times. He already can get the contract's not going to be dependent upon that.
Yeah.
All that stuff. It's like
but
a second team, third team All NBA at this point in his career. Like it's very meaningful, but it's not worth jeopardizing your health
jeopardizing your health, like, aside from, like, the worst thing he could do, theoretically, is roll it again, and he has the whole offseason to get better. I mean, he could snap his ankle, which, of course, you don't want to do that, but I do think Kevin Durant still cares about that a lot, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think getting All-NBA at, 37 years old, 38 years old?
36, yeah.
36 years old, 36, obviously. 36 years old, like, I think that's
I think you're right.
Is a big story of Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
So I think, if I had to guess, I think he will be back.
And you never know when it's going to be your last one. Not even that he's going to have some catastrophic thing happen to him. I just mean
it could happen.
Some season is your last one. So if you get to 62 games and you're in everybody's ballots, and this crappy timing of this happens, then yeah, I could totally see that would inspire him to get back on the court. But time will tell.